the shores of old Lake Erie stands our alma mater true. Fredonia state we proudly honor, with its colors white and blue.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the latest version of Reflections of Fredonia. This is a podcast in which we interview Fredonia alumni to find out what they have been up to since graduating and to give them an opportunity to reflect back on their undergraduate career here at Fredonia. I was a faculty member here for over 40 years, and I have truly enjoyed getting in touch with alumni and chatting with them on this podcast. We broadcast right here in Fredonia at the Fredonia Radio Systems, Fredonia's student-run radio station.
Hi, everybody. My name is Chloe Kowalik. I graduated from Fredonia in May 2024, and I am now back at Fredonia for grad school, and I am working on my Master's of Science in Clinical Mental Health Counseling.
For today's podcast, we have a very special guest. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself by telling us your name and when you graduated from Fredonia.
Yes, I am Jillian Hanesworth. I graduated from Fredonia in December of 2014. So it was a while ago now.
Great. Well, I came here as a professor in 1979, so that goes way back.
You win.
So, Jillian, what did you study while you were a student here at Fredonia?
So when I got into Fredonia, I came from arts high school in Buffalo. So when I got into Fredonia, I got in for theater, and I had a goal of trying to get my BFA in theater. But I immediately changed my major before the semester even started to political science. I stayed in that program for about a year and a half or 2 years. And then I ultimately switched my major and picked up a concentration in criminal justice and law. And that's what I graduated with.
Awesome.
Oh, wow. So you've sampled a few different majors while you were in
I
undergraduate here.
did.
That's good, because now you got like a variety of different skills that you learned.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I like to tell high schoolers, especially, like, spend more of your mental capacity thinking about what kind of person you want to be, what matters to you, like what values you are willing to stand on.
Mm-hmm.
And then your path will kind of fall into place. So I didn't pressure myself too much to pick a major. I just wanted to do something that felt good and felt real. And once I finally found that thing and I found the department and I liked the professors within the department, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
So how did you initially find out about Fredonia, and what made you want to come here?
So initially I was driving by, I drove by Fredonia with my godparents. We were going to a cabin for the weekend, and I forgot why I needed to distract my godfather. My godmother was like, "Go distract your godfather." So I went and I was talking to him, and I was like, "That college we passed, do you know anything about it?" I think this was the summer before my junior year of high school. No, the summer before my senior year.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, maybe I'll apply. And he told me about it. He told me there was a guy, one of his frat brothers, David White, who worked there.
Oh, yeah.
And
David's
he's
still
like, oh, I
here.
can, yeah, he's like, I can hook you up with D White and he'll tell you all about it. So he did. He gave Mr. White my cell phone number. And then he called me and he kind of walked me through the application process. Fredonia was the only school I actually applied to. I was that kid that was like against standardized testing and like
Mm-hmm.
against all these processes. And I was like, this is such a drawn out process. I'm just going to apply there and see what happens. So thankfully, I got in, and Mr. White worked really hard to help me get in because I didn't apply anywhere else. So
Wow, that's a funny story. So trying to distract your godfather got you started to
literally,
where
I
you
love
are
that.
today.
it did. It did. So whatever he was doing, or I'm grateful that we needed him to stop.
Uh, Well, thinking back on your time as an undergraduate, do you have any particular favorite memories of that time or any particular teachers that stand out?
Yeah, one of my favorite memories was actually before my first semester even started. It was my senior year of high school in the spring, and Fredonia Admissions has an annual weekend called Multicultural Weekend, where they bring um, mainly Black and Brown students in from Buffalo, New York City, Rochester, Syracuse, and we get paired with a current student and we spend the weekend at Fredonia. And there's this like long list of things we are not allowed to do, and we like do them anyway. Um, and it's just, I really like that weekend made me feel like even though I'm coming into a college with a environment that I'm not used to because I'm from Buffalo and Buffalo is very racially segregated. So I grew up on the east side of Buffalo. Everybody came from the kind of culture I came from. So
Hmm.
Fredonia, even though it's only 45 minutes away, I experienced culture shock.
Mhm.
Mhm.
But it made me feel like I could still find community there. So that was one of my favorite memories, and it was really crucial. Um, One of my favorite professors was actually Dr. Herkin in the political science department.
Mhm.
Um, Even after I switched my major, he continued to be my advisor. So I'm dyslexic, and I didn't know until my junior year at Fredonia. And was struggling really, really bad academically. I got academically dismissed. I had to appeal to get back in. And Dr.
Wow.
Herkin really, really cared about my goal, which was to graduate.
Mhm.
So he would check in on me, we would meet, and we didn't always talk about grades. Sometimes we just spoke about me and my interest and what I like about Fredonia, what I would change about Fredonia. And one day I decided, I don't even know if he remembers this. One day I decided to drop out. So I got a withdrawal form from the registrar and I needed him to sign it because he was still my advisor. And he refused to sign it. He ripped it and he told me to
Oh,
go to
jeez.
class. And the day I graduated, I walked in May, even though I graduated in December. But the
Mhm.
day I graduated, he was like, "See, look at you, like you did it." And I'm like, "Yeah, you literally wouldn't let me quit, so I didn't have a
Aw,
choice." But
that's
yeah, he was so crucial to my
Mhm.
journey at Fredonia. If it wasn't for him, I really would have left. I had an interview at Geico and everything. I was like, "I'm out of here."
Mhm.
He
wow.
didn't let me.
That sounds like Jim. I know
Yeah,
he's a distinguished teaching professor at the
he's
college, so
amazing.
he had a wonderful reputation while he was teaching here.
Yeah.
My another interaction I had with him, on a number of occasions, we went up to Algonquin Park canoeing,
Mm.
so that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And my memory of Multicultural Weekend, I have a memory of participating and going bowling with
Yep.
students. So I do you remember ever going bowling?
Yeah, that's one of the activities we did when I came. So,
Mhm.
You didn't
yeah.
decide to go professional, I guess, with bowling, though.
We had a good time though. I was like, "Okay, I can see myself here. Like, I can actually come here."
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Um, yeah, and I'm so glad they put on that weekend. To this day, I'm glad they still have that weekend.
Great.
Yeah. Did you participate in any extracurricular activities while you were here?
Yes, I was a part of STEPS. um, Students teaching equals positive sexuality. So we got to go and teach about, healthy partying habits and things like that.
Mhm.
I was for a year or two, I was on the Blue Ice Step team.
Oh, cool.
I was the president one year. Well, first I was the events coordinator, and then I was the president of the Black Student Union. I was an orientation leader. Like I said, I struggled really bad academically, and because of that, I lost my financial aid. So I was a student ambassador. I worked in the library, and I worked in the campus life office.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I worked a
Wow.
lot trying to stay, but thankfully, everybody at Fredonia knew that not everybody, but like the faculty and staff I spoke to, they knew what I was trying to do. So even when I needed another job, I had initially only worked in the library and as a student ambassador. And Patty from the alumni house. She would give me so many opportunities to like make money and get paid and
Mhm.
go places where there was going to be like dinner being served because she knew the struggle. Um and then Mike, who was the director of campus life, and he was my boss as an orientation leader. And I remember telling him one day, I need another job. And I just kind of said it in passing. And he was like, well, what time are you free tomorrow? And I was like, oh, I'm free, whatever time. So he told me to come to the campus life office. And when I got there, he was like, all right, so this is where you'll sit. Write down what your schedule can be. And I'm like, oh, I work here now? He's like, yeah, you work here now. Um, so everybody was really helpful. I wanted to stay and they wanted me to be successful.
Well,
I love that.
that's a great story.
Yeah.
How you've really done so well, and how so many people were there for you when you really needed
Hmm.
them.
Yeah. Before I needed them, when I didn't realize I needed them, they were they were
Yeah.
right there. So
Aw.
yeah, I'm
For
grateful for that.
All right. So take us a little bit along what your career path looked like once you graduated from Fredonia.
Yeah, so like my college path, my career path was all over the place. When I graduated, it was hard finding a job. You think you're going to get this bachelor's degree and it's going to be a golden ticket, and it doesn't work that way. So my first job was actually a part-time job as an education advocate for the Boys and Girls Club. Um, and I did that on and off actually for a couple of years. I also got a full-time job as a mental health advocate in a placement center, which is basically like a juvenile detention center. So I worked with boys who were between the ages of 13 and 17 who had to live in placement. They got out of centers or homes, or um, they came from jail or prisons and they couldn't go home yet for whatever reason. So my job was to help them make a plan to get back home.
Mhm.
Um, and I did that for a little while. I I loved the kids I worked with. I did not like the system that they had to navigate. But I liked advocacy. So I eventually left and I became an advocate for survivors of domestic violence. I worked in the only shelter in Erie County, only domestic violence shelter in Erie County. I worked at the Department of Social Services in the emergency housing unit, working with domestic violence survivors. And then I eventually worked in integrated domestic violence court, which was a court system for felony domestic violence cases that also had a family component. Um, and I did that for a while. I loved it. I was an advocate and a counselor for survivors. After that, I went on to Trocaire College, where I managed a Department of Justice Office on Violence Against Women grant. And it was my job to make sure that the campus policies and procedures were all in alignment with the Clery Act and with all of the national and federal laws we had to follow. I also had to design um, programs and trainings for incoming students around violence and how do you respond to violence? What do you do? What resources are here to help you? And then the video of George Floyd came out, and I actually took a few weeks off of work because I had done a lot of community organizing on the side, but I just really felt like that's where I needed to spend my energy.
Mhm.
Um, and then an organization called Open Buffalo hired me. And my job was essentially to teach people how to be community organizers. So building curriculum around how do we design campaigns around issues. Um, and I did that for a couple of years until May 14th of 2022, when we had a really unfortunate and devastating mass shooting in my neighborhood. And
Mhm.
um, by then, I had been doing poetry on the side professionally. Um, but I was like, I need to do this full time. So I just decided to take a leap, take a chance on myself, and I quit my job. And ever since then, I've just been writing full time.
Wow.
Yeah, so all over
wow,
the place.
wow. Sounds like you've done some really good things and helped a lot of people over the years.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's what's always been important to me. And I feel like the experiences I've had as an advocate, as a community organizer. It all informs how I write, what I write about, how I talk about certain topics when I'm doing lectures or interviews and things like that. So I think even though it seems pretty random, it all fits together when it comes to human service and telling community narratives.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
One of your writing projects we saw on your resume, and this looks like I think it was 2025. You did something with the NFL Super Bowl. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I've gotten to work with the NFL Network a few times, but they contacted me and they said they wanted to do a Super Bowl special about Black masking Indians in New Orleans and their culture. Um,
Mm.
and they gave me this like long list of poems they needed me to write. They all had to be really short about different topics. So basically,
Hmm.
as they were editing this documentary style special, they were sending it to me, and then I was like fitting poetry into each portion of the documentary. Obviously, I have a very Western New York accent, so we thought it would be best if I wasn't the one who said the poems. So
Hmm.
we got to work with a chief in the Masking Indians, and I got to kind of coach him through it, and he said the poems in the documentary. But it was a really interesting process and an opportunity that I'm grateful for because, like I said, telling stories, sharing community narratives is really important to me.
Hmm.
And being from a community like mine, very often, more often than not, our stories get told for us.
Hmm.
So to be able to walk alongside as this community was telling their story, and I was able to learn about them and build relationships, um, and write things that they felt like helped paint a full picture of who they were. That was huge for me. So I'm really thankful for the NFL Network. They've given me a few opportunities. My Emmy, I won an Emmy with them. So yeah, that's family.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of curious how is the writing process sort of work for you? Like when you're writing, how does your
Yeah.
mind work? How do you generate the things that you are able to put down on paper?
Sometimes I'll think of like one little line and I'll just write that down in a notebook or on my phone and I won't think about that sometimes for years. I won't revisit that. If I'm writing something that I'm deciding to write, more often than not, either a line or a topic will pop into my head and I will literally get chills. And it's like, okay,
Mm.
I have to write about that.
Hmm.
And I'll just start writing and I'll just, as long as I have chills, I know I'm writing the right words. Um, when I'm writing for other people, that can be a little bit more difficult, because the goal is to take something that exists in somebody else's head and somehow put it on paper. Um, the project that I won the Emmy for is called Still Here. And I remember when I got the call to write that one. And this guy, his name's Augustus Clark. He's from Buffalo, but we didn't really know each other. He was working for the NFL Network, and he called me one day and he's like, "We want you to write this poem." Initially, I was going to write it, and they were going to try to see if like Josh Allen or Stefan Diggs, somebody else could say it.
Hmm.
Uh-huh.
So he's like, "Okay, I'm going to give you this list of what this poem needs to be about." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm kind of nervous, but let's hear it." And he's like, "Well, it has to be about Buffalo and Bills in the fan base, but we really want to highlight parts of the fan base that doesn't often get highlighted nationally. So, like the fan base on the east side of Buffalo and on the west side, and not necessarily the people tailgating in Orchard Park."
Hmm.
I'm like, okay, I can do that because I am one of those people. um, but then he was like, but we want to talk about May 14th. And we want to talk about that storm where like 40 something people died. And we want to
Hmm.
talk about, and he started naming all these really heavy topics. And I'm like, how in the world am I supposed to write about like the worst things that have happened in the history of our community with a football focus and like joyful? Like this is not gonna, it's
Yeah.
not gonna work. But
Right.
I just started writing and I started writing about the resilience of my community specifically. And I wrote from the perspective of a Black woman in this city. Um, Once I finished the poem, Gus came into town because we had to scout locations, and we sat down at this little park near my house, and I read the poem to him, and he was like, "That's it. Like, don't change anything." So I sent him an audio recording of it, and he sent it to Trent Cooper, who was our producer director, and Trent was like, "Yeah, I don't think any of the football players on the team can say this. So how about we have her do it?" And this was one of the first times that they've had the writer also be the feature voice and face in a video. Um, but it was written purely out of the passion I have for my community and the things that we've gone through and how I've seen us get through them together. Um, so that one was one of the things where it's like someone else is telling me to write this, and I have to try to sit down and put myself in a mental space to hit all the markers someone else is giving me. And that can
Mm-hmm.
be a lot more difficult for me um, than just writing something for myself.
Well, clearly you did a great job.
Thank you.
I see you have been awarded. You've won a number of awards and honors. Is there any particular one that kind of stands out that you found particularly gratifying?
Yeah, I won an award from the Erie County Commission on the Status of Women for being a storyteller in the community. And I won this after the summer of, you know, kind of trying to pick up the pieces from the mass shooting. And I really found myself in a position where I had a choice. I could either kind of go alongside the narrative that our local leaders were were pushing out, or I could go alongside the narrative of the community. I'll give you an example. The east side of Buffalo, that's what it's always been called, the east side. After the mass shooting, we started seeing politicians and people on the news start to refer to it as East Buffalo. And I remember asking one of our local leaders, "Why are you calling it that? What is that?" And they were like, "Well, we don't want it to sound so segregated. So we change it from the east side of Buffalo, which sounds like we're compartmentalizing it, to East Buffalo." And I'm like, "Oh, so you're doing it for like equity?" And they're like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "But can't you do that with like equity? Like, are there other things you could do
Mm-hmm.
to make the east side more equitable other than just kind of giving it a new nickname?"
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they were like, "I understand, and that's gonna come along, it's gonna come, but right now, let's just make sure that we're not making it sound segregated." Not long after, um, a host on an NPR radio show called me on a hot mic, and he was like, "I want to ask you a question. We're on the air. How do you feel about East Buffalo?" And I was like, "It's lazy. It's a slap in the face. Like, people are out here surviving, and we're surviving systems that we've been surviving for years. People care now because it's national news, but people have been surviving this. Food apartheid has been a thing in our community. Over policing, high crime rates, um, poor jobs, lead in the pipes. Like, all these things are have been prevalent for a long time. So if you want to fix our community, fix the community. Don't rename it." And soon after that interview, the politician that I was speaking to called me, and they were livid that I said that on air, that I called them lazy. Um, and I don't know, I kind of felt powerful, like, "Yeah, you're really mad right now." And I did that. Um,
Hmm.
but that lit a fire under me to be really authentic and truthful when it comes to how I tell the story of my community. So when I got that award, um, I spent a summer feeling like maybe I said too much, maybe I did too much, maybe I went too hard. Um, so when a group of women who aren't necessarily from my community um, notices what I'm trying to do and how important our stories are to us, and they award me for that specifically, um, that was really impactful for me.
Well, I would say that award was well deserved.
Absolutely.
You've
Thank
you,
you.
you have
Yeah.
really done some inspirational things over the course of your career.
Thank you. I I can't even believe it sometimes that this is what I do. Um, or that the journey I took to get here was as winding as it was. But
Mhm.
I really do think the things that I learned while I was at Fredonia, um, learning how to be confident in who I am and confident in the fact that my background might be different from everybody else that's sitting in the room. And what I feel is necessary is still valid, and my feelings are still valid. You know, I was a student when Trayvon Martin was killed,
Mhm.
and just kind of helping my classmates understand the perspective of somebody who looks like Trayvon Martin and going against a lot of the misconceptions that people might have had about communities like the one I came from. That really prepared me for a world that I didn't know I was going to be entering. So now I can stand in a room full of politicians and be the only person who feels the way I feel and boldly state it. And I
Mhm.
really feel
Hmm.
like I learned that at Fredonia. So it'll
That's
always be
amazing.
so important to my story.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And it is quite a story.
Yes, definitely.
Absolutely.
One other
Thank
part
you.
I wanted to highlight. So you also founded Buffalo Books. So
Yes.
tell us a little bit about that program.
Yeah, so during COVID, I was living in a neighborhood where there were those little library boxes
Mhm.
around the neighborhood. I was on the west side of Buffalo, so I wasn't on the east side. I remember going to my mom's house and we were going for a walk because we still had to be like distance. And I'm like, I don't see any of those little library boxes that they have near me. Cause at that point we had all like watched all of Netflix and all of the streaming shows. Like we made bread and we juiced. Like we did all these random things. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna read. How about I just read? Um, and I was mentioning like they don't have those around the east side in the neighborhoods I grew up in and I still frequent. And I'm like, what if we had a program where we could like place those library boxes around the east side and around like, you know, black and brown neighborhoods and we can put books in them that are culturally relevant. So not
Mhm.
just like
Hmm.
a old copy of Little House on the Prairie that somebody had in their attic, but
Right.
like Toni Morrison books
Mhm.
and, you know, biographies about people who are important to us. So I started a GoFundMe. And one day I was leaving work and I got in my car and I started getting notifications that my GoFundMe was refunding everybody who made donations. And I'm like, what is going on? I went to my cousin's store and I was like crying. I'm like, maybe it's not meant to be, but I had already raised like $2,500. And raising
Mhm.
$2,500 during COVID when people were like, you know, struggling to get by,
Mhm.
people weren't able to work in some cases. That was like a big deal. So I was really discouraged. I'm like, okay, this is not meant to be. The next day I got an email from KeyBank and they were like, we saw your GoFundMe and we're gonna fund the whole thing. And I thought it
Oh,
was a
Oh,
scam. So I
wow.
didn't respond.
wow.
I'm like, oh, everything is a scam these days. But after not responding for a couple of days, I responded and all I said was, "Is this real?" And they were like, "Yes, we can get on a call right now." So they gave me $10,000 and
Wow.
I was able to get library boxes built. I buy books from local authors, local poets.
Hmm.
Right now, I have about 30 library boxes around the east side and a couple on the west side. They're in front of houses, they're inside barbershops and hair salons. They carry a ton of books. Some of them we use for community resources. And yeah, so now I'm about to help another group of guys who wants to do pretty much the exact same thing. I'm going to help them get started and kind of, you know, let them take the lead on the library boxes, but I'm also in the process of stocking a library. It's in a church on the east side, and it's going to be used as a resource hub for the entire community.
Mhm.
So it's a huge undertaking trying to stock a library. You'd be so surprised. You could have 500 books and it looks empty.
Oh, I
Um,
bet. Yeah.
so yeah, that's been my focus for now, stocking that library and getting resources in for the greater community to use.
Yeah, that's
Well,
amazing.
I have to say, I am truly in awe of all of the wonderful things that you have been doing for your community. You should be very proud of yourself.
Thank you. I'm proud of my community. We've seen it all here, unfortunately. So I'm proud to be from Buffalo. I'm proud to be from the East Side, and I just feel like I feel like the existence of the artist in and of itself is already radical.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but when you also take an artist who has a heart for the people, like really, really amazing things can happen. So I just want to make sure some cool things happen and hope
Well,
maybe my nephews and my niece can experience a different East Side than I experienced.
absolutely. What advice would you offer to current Fredonia students?
Um, I would say experience it. Allow yourself to experience what Fredonia has to offer. Um, and I don't just mean the parties or, you know, the weekends. Like, really, really take a look at what the college has, the clubs, the courses, the people you have the opportunity to learn from. If something doesn't exist and you feel like it's necessary, build it, create it. Um, there's so many lessons that you can learn without even realizing you're learning. So go to class for sure. Definitely do all your work. But allow yourself to learn. Allow yourself to learn about people and about experiences and learn about who you are. And like I said earlier, spend a lot of your time thinking about what kind of person you want to be, what you stand for, um, what hills you'll die on, and which ones you won't. Um, and let that lead you to your career. Let that lead your journey, knowing who you are and what you'll stand for. And that way, you'll never compromise who you really are and what you really value just to make a dollar. Before you know it, you'll be exactly where you need to be, helping the people you care about helping, and you'll be able to sleep at night knowing that what you're doing is going to impact somebody in a positive way.
Well, I would say you have truly followed your own advice and have
Thank
been
you.
very successful in doing so. So
Thank you.
it has been a pleasure chatting with you today. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap this up?
Just really quickly, after May 14th, Tops, the grocery store, called me and they said that they wanted a poem to be the memorial inside the store once it reopened. And I remember calling my mom and I was crying. And I was like, this is not fair. Like, this is my most precious thing. I love my art. I never imagined using it in this way. And it's not fair that I have to pin the feelings of our entire community. I don't want to do this. I'm not ready. And my mom told me, we all hope for a time where we can do something that's big and that's impactful. When it comes, you only have two decisions. You either rise to the occasion or you have to move out of the way because what needs to be done is bigger than us as individuals. So do it or move out of the way so someone else can do it. Um,
Mm, mhm.
that's something that I try to live by. And that's something that I would also advise other people to think about when things get really hard, when you're in a position where maybe you're the only person standing up for what you believe in, or maybe you're being asked to carry something really, really heavy, um, you can do it. It might be hard, but we do hard things all the time. Um, rise to the occasion or gracefully allow someone else to do it because getting the work done has to be the most important thing. No matter what the work is, whether it's a social change, whether it's a task at your job, whether it's a project, a group project in school, getting it done is the bottom line. So do it and do it even if it's hard, do it if it's scary, do it if you don't want to, or move out of the way and let somebody else get the work done.
Well, I would say you have chosen to rise to the occasion, and the community is much better off for you being in it.
Thank you. Thank you.
I agree.
All right, this wraps up our podcast today. I am Jack Croxton.
And I'm Chloe Kowalik, and we'll see you in the next podcast.
Beloved is our alma mater, Fredonia State